Hi viewers, you are welcome to Koyeb Ranch. If you are new to this channel, please like, subscribe and share so that anytime I download new videos, you will be notified. In this episode, I am going to share information about African breeds of cattle as part of my previous series of episodes on breeds of tropical cattle. The indigenous African cattle can be broadly classified into four categories. These are the humpless Bos Taros or touring cattle. These include cattle without hump behind their shoulders, at the back, and dewlap beneath their neck. The humped Bos Indicus or Zebu cattle. These include cattle with hump behind the shoulders of their back and dewlap beneath their neck. The Sanga. These are cattle crossbred between those without hump and dewlap and those with hump and dewlap. The fourth category is the Zenga. These are defined as the Sanga plus Zebu back cross. These cattle are the crossbreeds between the Sanga and those with hump and dewlap. In addition to these four categories, other African composite cattle breeds have been recently developed by crossbreeding the European cattle with the indigenous cattle breeds. Let us study these various categories. The humpless Bos Taros, or those without hump. They mostly originate from the western and central parts of Africa, such as Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, La Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, and Cameroon. And in the central parts of Africa include the Congo, Chad, Central African Republic, Gabon, and both Zaire. These groups are small in size and their productivity is low compared to most of the Zebu cattle population in the tropical areas. However, they have unique evolutionary adaptations to harsh climatic conditions. These humpless Bos Taros include two groups, the West African shorthorn cattle and the longhorn cattle. The shorthorn cattle consist of the dwarf shorthorn and the Savannah shorthorn. These shorthorn cattle mostly originate in the forest areas and the middle belts. In Ghana, the shorthorn, those in the forest areas, originate from Accra, Kita, Accra Plains and the Kita area up to Aflao. And then the Savannah type also originate in the middle belt from Kumasi to the northern region. So the shorthorn cattle, those in the forest areas are referred to as dwarf shorthorn. And those in the middle belt and the northern sector are referred to as Savannah shorthorns. Our local Fulanis refer to them as Muturu cattle. Muturu means cattle without horn. Another popular name for the shorthorn cattle, being dwarf shorthorn or Savannah shorthorn, is known in Ghana as Boboji. Boboji. These are typical examples of the Savannah shorthorn and the dwarf shorthorn cattle. similar in meaning of their names and the principal locations. In Ghana, the Savannah Shorthorn cattle is referred to as Ghana Shorthorn. In Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Central African Republic, the Savannah Shorthorn is referred to as Baule. In Nigeria, it is referred to as Savannah Muturu. In Togo, Benin, it is referred to as Samba. And in Cameroon, some of the tribes call it Daoyo, Kapsiki, and then Bakosi. The dwarf shorthorn, on the other hand, is referred to in Benin, Zaire, Congo, and Togo as Laguni. In Chad, the dwarf shorthorn is referred as Logoni. In Nigeria, the dwarf shorthorn, the Nigerian dwarf Muturu. In Cameroon, the dwarf is referred to as Bekweri. In Liberia, it is called Liberian dwarf. Those are the names being given to the dwarf and the Savannah Shorthorn cattle in West Africa. Other longhorn cattle breeds without hump and dewlap are the Indama and the Kuri cattle. The Indama breed is the most representative Bos Taros breed in the West Africa. The origin of this breed is located in the Fouta-Djallon highlands of Guinea, Conakry. From there, the breed has spread in the Western, Central, and Eastern Africa. Because it is Tsetse fly disease tolerant, it has been used for large-scale grazing in the Congo, Central African Republic, Gabon, Nigeria, and Zaire, especially in the regions infested by Tsetse flies. The Indama cattle breed is a hardy breed, medium-sized type with 100 centimeters at shoulder height for cows and 120 centimeters for bulls. It has a large and strong head with layer-shaped horns. The color coat is found but varies from sand to black color and sometimes spotted. Cows produce only 2 to 3 liters of milk per day. The Indama breed is used for meat and the ratio of carcass live weight is around 50%. The meat has a good flavor without much fat. Average live weight for a mature steer varies between 250 to 300 kilograms. The Kuri cattle breed is another type of cattle without hump and dewlap in Africa. These breeds are native to the shores of Lake Chad, where Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria join. The Kuri are believed to be descended from the Hematic Longhorn cattle and have been herded by the Buduma and Kuri people for centuries. The tribesmen were strict in their selection of animals for their horns, many of which grow in a lie or crescent shape. The horns sometimes reach 130 centimeters in length and 55 centimeters in diameter. Most remarkable is the unique pear shape of their horns. The animals are kept in dairy. They are kept as dairy cattle in herds of approximately 30 females to 1 bull. They carry gigantic bulbous horns. It is thought that the horns act as a float. The animals spend several hours each day in water swimming in search of water plants for food. The cattle are acclaimed to water to such a degree that they survive with difficulty away from their indigenous areas. The Kuri cattle are tall with long black shallow body and a large bony rump. They are usually white in color. The female weight is about 475 kilograms and the male is about 600 kilograms. The humped bos indicus or zebu cattle. Thus, cattle with humped and dewlap. The humped bos indicus or zebu cattle of the sub-Saharan Africa have similarity to the Indian and Pakistani zebus. The zebu cattle is sometimes known in the plural as Indocene cattle, camel cow, or humped cattle. The zebu, like many Sangha breeds, differ from Taurine cattle by a fatty hump on their shoulders, a large dewlap, and sometimes droopy ears. They are well adapted to withstand high temperatures and are famed throughout the tropics. These cattle inhabit from the western, central, and eastern parts of Africa. They have medium and large body sizes. They are highly productive in Churchifly-free areas. This has made them more appealing to the local farmers and therefore partly explain their abundance and worldwide distribution in Africa. These groups may be divided into medium shorthorn zebus and the Fulani cattle of Central and Western Africa. Examples of the medium shorthorn zebus are described as the Adamawa zebu of Nigeria, the Azawak zebu of Nigeria, North Sudan zebu, the Shua zebu of Chad, Nigeria, and Cameroon, the Sokoto zebu of Nigeria, sometimes referred as Sokoto Gudali, Masai zebu of Kenya, Sahiwal zebu of Kenya, the Boran zebu of Eastern Africa, that's Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, the Butana zebu of South Sudan, the Iringa red of Tanzania, the Mpapa zebu of Tanzania, and the Angoni zebu of Angola, Zambia, and Mozambique. These are typical examples of the medium shorthorn zebus or the Bos indicus cattle. The characteristics of the medium shorthorn zebu is that they are usually red or gray in color, are horned, have loose skin, large ears, and have a hump above their shoulders. This breed is used for its milk, meat, and as draft animals. The Lai and Longhorn zebu of the Fulani cattle of the Central and Western Africa. These Fulani cattle form a group of their own. They are different from the typical zebus of Western and Eastern Africa by the presence of their long horns and the cervicothoracic humped sanga of the Eastern and Southern Africa by the presence of a thoracic or sometimes intermediate hump. These lie and longhorn zebus of the Fulanis include 4 types. These are the Nigerian white Fulani zebu, the Senegal white Fulani zebu, the Sudanese white Fulani zebu, and the red Fulani zebus, sometimes referred to as red bororo. Typical example of red Fulani zebus in Ghana are referred as Raji and other red types of the zebus. The Sanga and the Zenga types are intermediate types of cattle, which are crosses between those cattle with hump and then those cattle without hump. They are slightly humped. These cattle inhabit central, eastern, and southern parts of Africa through the southern plain of the River Nile in the Sudan to the southwestern Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, and Botswana. These cattle are characterized by a large or medium-sized lie-shaped horns with small or vestigial horns and moderately sloping hind quarters. Examples are the following breeds: the Ankole cattle of Rwanda, Burundi, Eastern Congo, and Lake Tanganyika, the Baroche cattle of western part of northern Zimbabwe, the Basuto cattle, the Nguni cattle of Zululand and Swaziland, that is in the eastern and southern part of Africa, the Nilotic cattle of South Sudan, the Nyoka cattle of Congo, the Nganda cattle of Uganda, the Tonga cattle of Zimbabwe, the Rusizi cattle of Rwanda and Burundi, the Danakil cattle of Ethiopia, the Abigail cattle of Ethiopia, the Bihama cattle of Burundi, the Mashona cattle of Zimbabwe, the Tuli cattle of Zimbabwe, the Africana cattle of South Africa. These cattle are known to be well adapted to seasonally harsh conditions. Those are the typical examples of the Sanga and the Zenga breeds of cattle in Africa. Viewers, here comes to the end of my information on breeds of African cattle as part of my episode on tropical breeds of cattle. Thanks for listening. If you have any comment, kindly put it in the comment box for further clarification. Look forward to my next episode, which shall be characteristics of some African cattle breeds. Bye-bye.